Hello, everyone. It's Annie Brock here and Omar Reynoso. And we are here today for the Leader Transition Institute September training and coaching session. Omar is an alum of our LTI Changing Focus Moving from We to Me. He is still working through his transition. He's finding that it's not an event, that it's a process, and he's been working through it. But now he's working for the state of Florida as a veteran claims examiner. And he is going to talk to us today about how to navigate the VA system. While we've been waiting to go live, I've been learning some tips and tricks that I think I can use myself, and I'll eventually share with other people after I've experienced them, how to make it really work. But today, I want to say welcome, Omar, and I am going to give the floor to you and just let you run.
Awesome. Thank you, Annie. Pleasure to be here with everyone that jumps on and is part of this. The most important thing is, the VA is there to take care of us all, and learning how, and understanding what's there and how to utilize it. That's the most important part when we look at what the VA has for us. So today, I'm just going to give you a quick 20-minute spill on what the VA has, understanding it, key services, and some of the other things that we have at the VA. First off, we got to look at the history of the VA. The VA has been around for decades, and knowing that what is there. Okay, so the VA is broken down. You have your health portion, which has benefits, conditions, treatments, wellness programs, various locations. They even do research. They have special groups, and of course, they even have. Of course, we got careers, jobs, training. They have many veterans come back to work to the VA. As a matter of fact, at the level, not my level because I'm a state rep, but at the next, they have representatives like myself at the federal level, scattered throughout the United States. They only help transitioning service members do their claims. So if you're doing a BDD or IDES, there is a program for that, other than going to to the VA or going to a veteran service office like VFW or DAV and so on and so forth. So yes, even at your military installation, there is one representative that can assist you with that. And so the other side of that is, of course, the Veteran Benefits Administration, which, of course, they do outreach, transition, economic development, of course, compensation and pension, life insurance, home loans, VRNE, and of course, the appeals process. And they also have some more special other stuff. But that's the gist of what the VA, the core of it. And of course, when we look at the VA, it's been around, even dating back to almost to the time around when the colonies were formed. Except back then they had numerous different names like National Home for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers, Veterans Bureau, Bureau of Pensions, War Risk Bureau, and now, of course, Veterans Administration. And the beauty of it is, when we look at this. The department, when it was created, of course, it was just how do we take care of the veterans, and we look at what are they doing now. And I think when we look at this, how each different portion of what we have in the system, there's so many different pieces, and it's like, well, it's not it's kind of like Google. You can get lost in there, and you're like, well, I don't know which way to turn, or I don't know what I have to need, or I don't know what's available. You can Google within the VA, so to speak, and see what other resources, because you never know. It might be something, whether it's looking at, of course, different programs, with education, mental health, you name it, it's all there. But
Omar, you're saying that we shouldn't search on like Google or anything. If we have a question about something that's in the VA, that we'll get better results if we go right to the VA.gov website.
That is correct, because I'm going to tell you this. There's a lot of predators that are out there. They're out to make money. Don't get me wrong. I won't. There's some that I can say that they're honest and truthful, but how many are actually there for the veteran? Because if they're out there to make money, then they're
Mhm.
not for the veteran. I'm not out there. I'm not here for make money. I'm a state representative here to take care of veterans. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I get
Mhm.
paid to do my job, but I work for essentially with a nonprofit for the state. Means that I am here to take care of the vets. So I'm not making any money. My job is to make sure I take care of you. Um, but it
Awesome.
goes going back. So of course the mission and mission, vision, and values. Of course, the VA's mission. It's Lincoln's promise. To take care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. That's still to this day. It strikes. It's the core of what the VA does. Um, and of course the values, compassion, commitment, excellence, professionalism, integrity, accountability, stewardship, which is all mostly even to a lot of the branches. So it's kind of good for a lot of the veterans that come out of the military. They go straight to work to the VA or in the system. They still have those same kind of core values, and it's amazing. People are like, oh man, the VA is never going to take care of me. They're going to do that. Well, that's so you're saying that veterans are not taking care of veterans. I kind of disagree. I'm a veteran. I'm actually a retiree from the military. So how am I not taking care of? I'm making sure that I do everything right. Making sure that we're showing you the process of how to do things the right way. Because don't get me wrong, you can go through and fumble your way through the VA and get some benefits, but are you taking full advantage of them? And that's I can't remember
So
the under.
so that's what you're going to share with us, how to take the advantage of the full benefits, right?
Yes, I know we
Awesome.
had the I can't remember his name, Paul Lawrence, previous undersecretary
Mhm.
of the VA. He wrote a book, phenomenal book too. I haven't read. I've only read bits and pieces because I did the digital version. But it's explains, use the VA to your advantage. Use it for what it's worth. Don't just sit there and say, okay, I got this small piece of the VA that's going to help me. Um, so the VA healthcare system, it's very broken down. They have locations throughout the United States, and the beauty of it, if you click, you can just go when you go onto your on the main VA page. I'll post it in here for you. You can share it with everybody else. Um,
Okay, I'm putting the
but
link. I'm putting the name of the book in that Mr. That
yes, it's a
Secretary
it's
Lawrence wrote.
yes, it's a good book for people to read. But I'll put this link in here, and if you can't find your VA facility that's nearest you, you just got to use this one right here, and it'll tell you exactly, hey, what is available near me? Because that's the one thing I tell vets, find what's there near you, because if you do that, you'll be able to get um, the the basic needs. So of course, like the number one thing when vets come in, okay, I have come into the VA, I got out of service, I spent 5 years, 4 years, whatever, did my time, got out, and did nothing with the VA. That's fine. You can still go see your VA and register and see what's available, what's the criteria, and that is the one part right there. When I tell veterans, okay, what is the most important when looking at criteria? Well, here it is, straight from the VA website. Of course, if you enlisted after September 1980 or entered active duty after October 16, 1981, you must have served 24 continuous months or the full period for which you are called to active duty, unless any descriptions below are true to you, which is your discharge for disability that was caused or made worse by your active duty service, which, believe it or not, they're veteran. They're still considered veterans because they got hurt during their initial entry training. That then they're qualified. They're
Right,
discharged.
because they got hurt during basic,
Mhm.
regardless of the service, and then weren't able to continue, but they're still qualified to be called a veteran and receive veterans benefits because of that, right?
Yes, if they're
Okay.
discharged for hardship or early out, sometimes like family, especially if you're the only son, or you lost a family member that you're the only one left that you have to get out. So that causes that, or you served prior to September 7th of 1980. So people that served prior to that kind of exempt to that rule. The one issue that we do have is, of course, the reserves and National Guard. And I know it just sucks for them because they don't like to hear this, but the only way the VA will allow you to be eligible is that you have to be called to active duty by a federal order and completed the time frame that you were called active duty. Um,
Is there a minimum length of that service,
nope.
or
I have reserves. Especially being here next to Eglin, we
Mhm.
have both Army Reserve and Air Force Reserve is the biggest
Right,
ones, and a couple of National Guard. When those veterans come in, they have multiple DD-214s, and that's
Mhm.
fine. That's covering those time periods. There's other, I can't remember that there's another sheet you can use to
So, in
to
other
state
words,
that.
Omar, what you're saying is if you're in the reserves or the National Guard and you were called to federal service maybe for a month, that entitles you then to receive services from the VA.
As long as is
Awesome.
and as long as that during that and on that, as long as during that time frame, if there's an injury during that time frame,
Right.
that could be utilized for compensation. That's the one thing that people say, well, this is the tough pill to swallow. So veterans who served in the reserves and guard and spent 20 or 30 years, some just were activated for the state, which is Title 32.
Right.
You don't qualify.
They don't qualify for the VA.
No, nope. So that's
Interesting.
why I tell them, make sure you're on when you're called to federal orders, those Title 10 orders. That's the moneymaker, and then making sure that as soon as you get them off those Title 10 orders, you got that DD-214 saying, "Hey, I got it in black and white saying I served from this month to this month," and that way, if there's any type of uh, disability that's during that time frame,
Mhm.
that you have that covered. So that's when they come over to us and
Document,
talk about.
document, document.
Yes, yes. So those are there's a of course there's other stuff that we have, especially like if there's certain like elevations, like of course the POWs, Purple Hearts, Medal of Honor recipients. Those are a little bit different.
Mhm.
We try making sure that they're taken care of on a different level. And even you look at now with the PACT Act, it's another big thing that's going on. So a lot of veterans, they're like, well, the PACT Act expired. No, it didn't. What happened was the retroactive payments stopped. That was it. PACT Act did not go away. So if you have any of those different ailments or disabilities that are on those lists, and you got to make sure that you're reading which one's respective to your time frame, because that's what I say. It's like, oh man, I got COPD. Well, that's not your era. You're a Vietnam era guy. You're not Gulf War. So you got to make sure you're looking at what exactly ties to your era of service. They're all broken down differently.
Awesome.
So another reason why I say you need to start making sure, especially for the older veterans, to enroll into the VA healthcare, um, because one, it's a safety net as we get older, especially for those that are, of course, now going so far as Vietnam and Gulf War, Cold War, even up to in the mid '90s. So veterans in that time, those time frames, you got to look at this. What happens as you get older? Of course, you hit that golden age, 65 and over, and guess what usually happens? Of course, now you're switching over from regular TRICARE to TRICARE for life, and of course, depending on your state, whatever medical aid you're provided by the state. So here, at least I know in Eglin, you hit a certain age, and the VA, or not VA, the Eglin hospital says, well, you hit that age, it's time for you to, it's all we can do for you. You need to go see somebody else off the installation. And you're like, well, I've been here for 30 years, retired, and now you're pushing me to go find a new doc. And so they come into the clinic and like they're rushing to get the help. I'm like, hold on, where have you been all this whole time? Why have you not put yourself to make sure that you got the help you needed ahead of time? Start preparing for this, because if you come into the VA is going to do everything it can, but you got to remember now you got to go back, especially if you didn't do anything with the VA. I've got to go back and look at your records, make sure we get everything situated. You've got to figure out what's in. That's the hard part, the tough pill that everybody has to swallow, is that you have to know what you want to claim. I'm not going to sit there and go through your records. You need to tell me. Unlike this is the big difference when you're freshly getting out of the service, you're doing your BDD claim or IDS claim. Yeah, that representative will assist you in going through your records. They'll say, hey, yeah, this stuff here, this on forth. But once you're out of service, that's not the case. I'm not here, neither is any other VSO. They're here to look through your records. You're going to tell them what you want to claim. But what I do, I sit down with the veteran. I say, okay, is this in your records? I don't know. Well, you need to know, because if you want to claim this, and want me to help, I'll help you all the way through. But if you really want to get this go through the first time go, you need to know if it's in the records. If it's not, then you're not going to get the help you need for this. So I make sure to tell them that, so that they try to order the records so they can get them seen through them, what's in their files, especially for the older vets. They don't know. So they get their records, they start seeing what's in there, and then, okay, we got to know what your records are in there. Then it's like, okay, how can I assist you now? One, okay, I've got this injury that's not in my records. So how do I work that? And I was like, okay, since this is not in your records, you've got, of course, we talked about this, you got to get the nexus letter saying the doctor's got to say, yes, this is connected to his time in service. And that's part of I know one of the issues that a lot of doctors won't sign off on that nexus letter, especially if they're VA or military doctors. Why that is, I couldn't tell you. That's not my level of knowledge or expertise in that. But I could tell you this, that you've got to get that letter to help you if it's not in your records, because having that in there saying that, this doctor's vouching to say, yes, this veteran has this from when he was in service, that's gold right there and not my eyes, but the VA's eyes, because that's the first step. And then, of course, making sure that one, you have all the medical documentation to follow it. And that's the one thing I tell everybody, regardless if it's in your records or not, what are you doing for the continuity of care? You got to make sure that you're seen by the doctors, whatever the case may be, his knees, ankles, back, name it. You have to have the continuity of care that you're being seen for. And not just that you're being seen for, but if you're looking for compensation, it's got to be getting worse. The condition. That's why the whole compensation and pension program is for. It's not just because I got an injury while I served, the VA needs to pay me. It's because, one, that condition or claim is getting worse, and it's sometimes it's not ever going to get better, and that's why the whole deal with being compensated for your time in uniform, and the VA does that. We talked disability. Let's see. Okay, we can go down to education. Education. I think look at it. Of course, the GI Bill. We have the voc rehab or veteran, and the veteran. It's not now voc rehab anymore. It's the veteran readiness and employment program.
Yeah, can you explain what that is, Omar?
Oh yeah, it's they have different programs that now, compared to when we first what do you call it, out of uniform, they had so many different great programs for this, but now it's hold on, that's why the internet went out of my other computer, and I was like, why is it not working over
Oh
here?
no.
That's why now I get this fixed in a minute. Come on, still connecting. There we go. So when especially for it's chapter 31, the veteran readiness and employment program, What they do now is not. There's different programs. You have to one see uh, what works for you, because you can go to university, you can or just go through even some of those like fast track programs, but it just depends on as long as the VA approves it. Um, and of course, uh, the two things, and this is great right here for this program, because you don't have to be totally disabled for this one. All you have to have is not receive a dishonorable discharge and just be at least 10% service connected. That's
Interesting.
not so.
So that's just for overall for the veteran readiness and employment, the Chapter 31?
Mhm, for the Type 31. And then it says, of course, that if you're discharged before 2013, the, the most important thing is the date you receive your notice of days of active duty, or the date you received your first VA rating, which I don't know how it really plays into it, but
So you have
if
12 years of benefits from that. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, it ends 12 years from one of those dates. Yeah, so if you're from when you what do you
Okay,
call it?
so let's play with me for an example. So I was discharged from active duty on September 30th in 1988. And so 12 years from that is way past. But if I go and file a VA claim and receive a disability rating, then my 12 years starts then. Am I understanding that correctly?
Um, I'm not the expert on this. I'm gonna lie and
Okay.
say I don't want to give you false information, but uh,
But I think so. I think that's what it says, which is awesome because what that does is it takes care of our older veterans
and
if
and
we
and if
didn't
you
file a claim.
and one thing to note though is if they have a serious handicap issue,
Mhm.
that it waives that, and so it extends it for them. Um,
Oh, awesome.
and then here's a cool part for the younger generation. If you're on active duty, you can still use this as long as uh, you're either, especially for the ones that are like right now doing, if they're doing medical boards. So
Hmm.
if they have a 20% or higher pre-discharge disability rating, will soon leave the military, are waiting to be discharged because of an illness that they can't stay on active duty. So boom, right there. And of course, once you do in your BDD, a lot of stuff it helps up. So that's why I tell vets, if you can do a BDD, if you're just ready getting out of service, do it. So that way it speeds up the process of when you're going to get your benefits and know you can utilize the system. Um, but I would tell you that the dishonorable, other than honorable bad conduct, you're not really going to be eligible for this. So that's why I tell those vets that have those kind of situations, you have, and I know it sucks to hear this, but you need to make sure if you really care about your discharge and you need to get it knocked out, elevated to fixed in the few years after you leave service. How hard is that? It's very hard. That's why it sucks when yeah, you're hurting, and the VA is not gonna give you any compensation. However, the VA will take care of the veteran medically. So, meaning if whatever was caused to
So
you while in
even if you
service.
have an other than honorable discharge, if you have health issues related to your military service, you'll get that taken care of, but you don't have access to other benefits.
Yeah, you won't receive any compensation.
Okay.
You'll be taken care of medically, but no
Right.
compensation.
Well,
Um,
I mean, hey, for some people that goes a long way if healthcare can be paid
yeah, and
for things that are service connected.
yes, and it is more with the VRNE, of course. They do. So there's on the job, training programs, apprenticeships, non-paid work experiences. Post-secondary education, vocational, technical, business schools. Uh, they have it's so many different programs. And another thing. So if you're a veteran who uses this program and say you're not 100% per min total, um, and you don't have any dental benefits, guess what? During the time that you're using the program, you can go see the dentist for free. So that's an incentive right there to go go and use your education benefits from the VA, so you can go
Oh,
see a
that's really
dentist.
interesting. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, I found that one out when I started working. I was like, "What? I didn't know that. That's cool." And of course, and this is the one that I always tell for those that are transitioning, as soon
Mhm.
as you know you're getting out and you've got your D214 in hand, as long as it's not annotated on there that you got dental services, go see the VA to schedule your dental appointment. The VA will give you one free dental checkup cleaning as soon as you get out of uniform, but it has to be taken advantage within the first 6 months after you get out of the uniform. If you do not,
So
it
if your
goes
DD
away.
214 doesn't show that you received dental benefits on the way out,
Hmm.
then the VA will give you a one dental appointment within 6 months,
Yeah,
right?
and as long as you got to figure out where you're going to stay at or where you're going to go to, call that see what's the local program there. If it
Hmm.
doesn't have, it 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 can get filled pretty fast, especially if it's especially like here, because our only VA dental clinic here is in Pensacola, so it gets packed. Um, so even as long as it's scheduled in the books, no matter if it's past the 6 months, but they schedule it for you, then that's good to go because they locked it in for you. But if you wait till the last minute, they can't get you in. Well, you're out of luck on that one. And of course, we know the
Omar, do
GI
you know
Bill.
if there's Jose wanted to know, is there a website where people can find a compilation of state VA benefits?
Yeah, so each there's not really. So I know the military.com and military.org they have some, but I tell vets, the VA.gov has a mass PDF file, and I'll find it and I'll share if you need it. By all means, like I said, reach out to me. I get it through. I send it to you to LinkedIn. I send it all the time to vets. But this mass sheet has every state equivalent to mine here in Florida. So just like here in Florida's FDVA, whatever, and California is CalVets. And on those websites, each website of your state, you have, well, generally speaking, at least I know for these two states, they have a handbook. I don't have one in here per se right now. I have them all sitting outside by the door so vets can get them. But the handbook tells you what benefits your state has. Now,
And
not
that's
every
often in
benefit.
Omar. I found it. I found the
Mhm.
link and I put it in the chat, and it's great. There's a page, and you just click on the button for your state, and it even has it for the territories, Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa, and
Mhm.
you click there, and it takes you right to the state VA page.
Yes. So every and as I said, I like using the PDF one because the PDF one it has a interactive click button. I just click it and it goes right to it. And I found that one by luck. A friend of mine showed it to me, and I was like, "Oh man, this is cool right here." I just click on it. It shows me that, so that's how I started learning. But yeah, look at what your state offers. Not every state is the same as as the other. So yeah, when you're choosing, especially for those that are getting out of uniform, you look what they have. See what pick what you want as far as benefit wise, because some states offer better than others, of course. Uh, California, for some reason, I don't know how, they're the number one state for vets that veterans like to go to. But one thing I say is number two is tied between Texas and Florida. Uh, you know, both of the states they take care of their veterans really well. I'm very looking at, of course, here in Florida. Yes, I see what we do here. I know one thing that I know for here depending, of course, as long as you're a veteran, they take I think $5,000 off of your property. If you are fortunate and you're 100%, well, not fortunate but unfortunate, that you're 100% permanent total, yes, the state of Florida waives all of your home taxes. So that's a big thing right there.
Yeah.
So just you have to shop around, so to speak,
So,
before you retire.
so Omar, I love that what you're doing is you're making us understand that the VA is much more than healthcare, and I think that's awesome. Since you started working in your position, what is the most surprising thing that you've learned that's available for veterans with through their benefits?
Let's see. Oh, this is one with urgent care. I didn't know how that, and granted, it depends on your level of where you're at. So of course, depending on what you got going on, uh, the VA will take care of that for you. You have to look at that. Whatever the case may be, say for example, if you're service connected for your knee, and you're out there, yeah, you're playing soccer, and boom, you bust your knee playing soccer, and you need to get seen right away. So you go to urgent care. You call the 1-800 number, but the VA has, saying, "Hey, I busted my knee. I just need permission to authorizing me to go use urgent care." Cool, good to go. They give you authorization, and there you go, done and taken care of. No having to
Oh,
pay
so
out of
that's
pocket.
interesting. So you're not limited necessarily to having to go to a VA facility for your care,
If it, especially for
for,
emergency
for
purposes,
urgent stuff.
yeah, because think about it, not every VA, especially where you're in the more rural areas, you don't might have a small clinic. Like here we have the clinic, it's only Monday through Friday, so the weekends, that's usually when a lot of stuff happens, or after
Mhm.
hours, things happen, and you need to get some kind of care right away. Yeah.
And that line is where you can call is for you guys there in Florida is available 24 hours, 24/7.
I believe so. I said I
That's
have
great.
never used it.
Well, that's great. I
Unfortunate.
think everybody should check that out to find out for in their area if you're getting VA care. Find out if in your area if you can go to the local urgent care when the VA is closed.
Yeah.
And
Another
Bruni
thing.
said Bruni's in Tennessee. She's on the Tennessee North Carolina border, and she said the VA has some urgent care
Yeah.
locations.
See, exactly. That's great. Another thing that of course, we all know what VA is no most known for is home loans.
Mhm.
Everybody, it's a great system, and of course, there are some. There's a lot of information on the VA site for this. Um, Everything from looking at refinancing, purchasing, interest rate reductions, mortgage assistance, special adapted housing. There's so much information on here. It's unreal. I didn't even know how much they had until I sat there, like, wow, I didn't know all this stuff was there. And of course, we all know typical no closing costs, or limited closing costs, excuse me, no down payment required, and no private mortgage insurance, because that's other stuff
And
is.
I think out of all of it, those are the two things: the no down payment and the no private mortgage insurance. Because having to pay that mortgage insurance if you don't have a down payment in the civilian sector, that is just money that you're just throwing away.
Yeah. So
So
look at the website, use it.
definitely get smart.
It's on the of course, benefits.va.gov /home loans, and everything is on there. And they got a lot of resources on the side of there. So
Mhm.
especially whether it's like for those that are still active duty, the SCRA, if you have trouble with payments, if you have benefits for veteran dependents and their survivors, and of course national disaster fraud, because that's one thing that, especially down here in Florida, we're known. We have a lot of with the hurricanes, or in California with earthquakes, or even Midwest with the tornadoes. So everywhere you got some kind of stuff, there's always somebody trying to make a buck on us. So make sure that you check that out if you have any questions as far as that stuff.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been really useful. I think it's really good to remind ourselves, remind everyone that when we talk about the VA, we're not just talking about disability ratings. We're talking about education, housing resources, retraining. Uh, there's so much, but I think
Yes.
VA by itself, we just get thinking ratings and healthcare. But the VA is much more.
Yeah, make sure you go on there, and the most importantly, set up your account. Um, because a lot of people, especially the old generation, they're not computer savvy or anything.
Mhm.
Do it on a cell phone. A lot of vets have that. They got new technology now. So guess what? Download that app, the VA.gov app. It's download it,
There's an app.
use it. Yes.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised that there's an app for that.
VA has a library of apps, and I'm gonna say they're very beneficial. I don't remember there used to be
I just found the website. I'm going to put it into the chat
yeah, there's a
where
little
all the
cheat
VA
sheet.
apps are.
Yes,
So if they have their own app store, who knew? Who'd have
yes.
guessed that the VA has an app store?
Oh, it's a really good app store. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've not every single app I use
Mhm.
because there's so many, but I can vouch for how easy some of these are to utilize. Um, the ones I've used before in the past. I've let's see.
Well, I'm looking
The
at it. There's a mindfulness coach.
Yep.
There are, about how to access your health and benefits. There,
The
oh, I see that there are, over 50 apps here available.
Yeah, and one of the ones that, of course, the VA Video Connect. So when you can use it in the browser, but it's best to use download the app. But of course, if you have an appointment with the doc and it does virtual, that's the one they go to. They use that one to sit down and make your appointments for if you're doing use it on a mobile phone device. But yes, make sure you register. See what's on there. When you register for VA.gov, you have access to all your claims. That if it's active claims, that is, you have access to your health records. So My Health eVet, and of course, you're able to communicate with these doctors that you're seeing. So if you're seeing a doctor and say, hey, I'm not feeling too well, or hey, doc, I remember we talked about this last time, but I haven't been scheduled for this. Or especially like if they refer you to, say, for example, like acupuncture or chiropractor, and you haven't heard anything back, you can just send a message to the doc, like, hey, doc, it's been a month or two and I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything? And he'll be able to punch it in the system for you, say, hey, I requested this for this veteran. What's the status? Or he'll see it. Of course, the docs can see everything. So it's like, yep, okay, it's done. Send you a message, and now you're on your way to getting whatever you need for that.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us today, Omar. I really appreciate it. I think it's important for all of us to know what's available, and because we can't use it if we don't know that it's available. So
Mhm.
thanks for opening our eyes to everything that the VA has available to us. Thank you all for being on with us, and thank you for those of you who are going to watch this recording later. Hopefully, you'll find the links in the chat and be able to use some of the resources we shared. Thank you, and we'll see you again next month. And thanks again, Omar.
My pleasure.